living my scrub life.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Imani for those who don't know me. And today's video is going to be about my very first code blue experience. So a code blue, for those who don't know, is pretty much when a patient goes into cardiopulmonary arrest and the healthcare team has to provide resuscitation efforts in order to try to save the patient's life. Since I've been a nurse, which is about a little over a year now, I've been working at my same hospital, and I've had to go through multiple trainings, gone through mock codes, just because it's important to know the roles of different people in a code blue situation, who's supposed to be there, who's not supposed to be there, the process of a code blue, what is the nurse's role in the code blue, what is the doctor's role in the code blue, and so many other things that has to be known. Also, with mock codes is a great refresher for not only for younger nurses and older nurses, but people who haven't had to go through a code blue experience in a while, just to refreshen their skills and their knowledge about a code blue experience. So my story, my code blue story, is I had the pleasure of taking care of a very sweet older woman a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So I'm a night shift nurse, and the day shift nurse hands off report to me, and I go meet the patient. I go introduce myself to the patient. I get her vital signs, and in that time that she tells me that she's uncomfortable. She's so weak that she's not even able to turn herself back and forth in the bed to get herself comfortable, and she needs the assistance of one or two people just to get her comfortable. I get her comfortable, and I tell her that I will be back shortly with her medications, and I do just that. I come back a couple minutes later. I have her medications. I do an assessment. We talk a little bit about her family. I give her pills. She's able to swallow pills just fine. And she still tells me that she's comfortable. I tell her that I am going to check on my other patients, be back to check on her throughout the night, etc., etc. So, like I said, I go back. I told her I was going to check on her. I go back and check on her, and she is uncomfortable again. So again, I assist her to a more comfortable position. Around 12 o'clock, I go into her room. I check her vitals, and I wake her up just to make sure that she's still, everything is still okay. If she's making sure she's not in any pain, making sure she's not too hot, too cold, and she says she's fine. A couple hours later, I go back in her room to check on her, and I'm not just only checking on her. I'm checking on all my patients, but the story is about her. Checking on her, and I walk in her room, and her room is hot. It's hot. So I wake her up, and I'm like, hey. I was like, hey, I just noticed that the temperature's a little high. Are you okay? And she's like, no, I'm fine. I said, oh. I was like, okay. So a couple hours later, I go back in her room, check her vitals. Vital signs within normal limits. And at this point, and then a couple of hours later, it's almost time for me to go home. So I go in her room, I prepare her medications, get her medications ready, and I try to wake her up for her to take her medications, and she is not waking up. Now, mind you, throughout the night, she woke up with ease for the most part. Now she's not waking up. I'm like, this is weird. I also noticed that she's guppy breathing pretty much, meaning that when a fish is out of water and they're doing that kind of breathing, that's kind of what she was doing. It was just very weird and irregular. And I was like, okay, something's not right. So again, I say her name louder, does not even flinch when I yell her name. Then I try to sternal rub her. Sternal rub her is when you take your knuckles and like dig it into someone's chest pretty much to elicit painful stimuli. So I do that, nothing is working. So I'm like, okay, something's definitely wrong. Call my charge nurse. I'm like, hey, can you come take a look at this patient? She was just alert and oriented a couple hours ago. Now I can't even wake her up when I deep sternal rub her. And he's like, yeah. So he goes in her room, does the same thing I do. He calls her name, deep sternal rub, and he's a guy. So I know that sternal rub was hurting. Not moving. Homegirl is not moving, nothing, but still doing that guppy breathing. So at this point I get worried. And I go ahead and I start taking her vital signs, and I call the rapid response team. Pretty much the rapid response team is like a team of people who respond to patients who are quickly deteriorating to try to prevent them from going into cardiac or respiratory arrest. So I call the rapid response team, let them know what's going on. By this point, her blood pressure has already cycled and is again within normal limits. And the rapid response team nurse comes to take a look at her, and she performs her interventions. And while performing her interventions of trying to arouse the patient is still unresponsive. So I have the patient's blood pressure cycled every 5 minutes because clearly something is wrong. I page the doctor and I say, hey, the patient is currently unresponsive. I need someone in here to come lay eyes on her as soon as possible. The doctor says he's on his way. Literally, as soon as I hang up the phone from the doctor, the rapid response nurse goes, we need the code card. So I'm like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? So we get the code card in there, we lay the patient's bed flat, and we put the defibrillator, we put the pads on the patient in case we have to shock the patient. Literally, as soon as the doctor walks in, we lose the patient's pulse. In that moment, I stopped and I was like, is this really happening? No amount of training, no amount of mock codes, no amount of videos, movies, whatever can prepare you for the emotional feeling that you feel when you have to start doing compressions on the patient. So, like I said, we lose her pulse, and the doctor says start compressions. So the charge nurse, because he's still in there with me, he's starting the compressions, and I'm pretty much the person providing breath to the patient when the time comes. And the code blue has started. Of course, when we call the code blue, the whole hospital is alerted to that because someone comes over the intercom and says code blue and whatever floor they're on. So everybody comes running to our unit. All healthcare providers come rushing to the unit. But at this point, the charge nurse and I had switched roles, and I had been doing compressions. And so when I look up, there are like so many people in so many different places, and I mean, we're trying to save her life. And at this point, the appropriate people are there, and now I'm talking to the doctor and just letting the doctor know about the patient's night and what medications I had given the patient, and all the events leading up to the code blue. Eventually, during the code up, a pulse is regained on the patient, and she is then transported to ICU where she's intubated. After the code blue was over, I just had to process everything that happened, because like I said, no amount of preparation can prepare you for the emotional feelings that that come with the code blue. Like literally, it's a life or death situation that her life is in our hands. So a couple of weeks later, so now like I said, the patient is in the ICU, and a couple of weeks later, she's transferred back to our floor, which is a good thing. That means, you know, she's out of ICU, she's getting better, she's gotten better. That's a good thing. And when she was back, I wanted to go in her room and talk to her and see how she was, and but I was so scared, and I don't know why I was scared. I have no idea why I was scared, but every time I was like, let me just go in there, somebody would be like, no, Imani, don't do it, don't do it. A couple of days later, my coworker goes, have you seen her? And I was like, no. She's like, she's doing great. She had a trach. They decannulated the trach. She's on room air. She's going home, or she's going to rehab soon. She's doing great. And we talked about the code blue, and she would really love to meet you. She would really love to talk to you. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to talk to her. So I walked in their room, and I was very hesitant to go into her room because I didn't know what I was going to say to her. And I said, so I introduced myself. I said, hey, I'm not sure if you remember me, but I am the nurse who took care of you, or who was taking care of you the morning when we had to resuscitate you. And as soon as I said that, she grabbed my hand and just thanked me for, she thanked me for saving her life. She was so grateful. She was so appreciative. And in that moment, that's when I knew that I was doing what I wanted to do. Ooh, because she was so sweet. She couldn't let my hand go, and she was so appreciative and continued to thank me, and she wanted to know like what happened. And after I told her what happened, she said, I just want to thank you for saving my life, because of you, I'm still alive and I have so much more living to do. And after she said that, we talked, we exchanged a few words. I told her that she didn't have to thank me, that it was a pleasure. I told her that I'm so glad that we saved her life. I'm so glad that she's still alive. And she was just so sweet. Oh my gosh. And I'm glad my coworker told me to go like talk to her, because literally the next day, or maybe 2 days later, she was discharged to go to a rehab facility, and I would have never like had that encounter with her. Again, I don't know what held me back the first time, like those times from like going to her room, but I'm so glad like I ran into my coworker on that day, and she told me like just go, she'll appreciate it. And after having that conversation with the patient, again, that just solidified the fact that I'm doing what I want to do. I love what I do, and that my career is so rewarding. And although it was very scary, it was probably like one of the most rewarding experiences that I've encountered so far. That is my Code Blue experience. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video too. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time.